2025, and we are here for a little bit of maha. Ah-ha-ha. Ma-ma-ha-ha, ma. Okay, make America healthy again. Today, it's good seeing you guys back here. Is everybody ready to learn?
Yes.
Yeah, because December, I think, was the last time I was here. And then in January, I decided to job in and ship in a bunch of traveling evangelists so that when the pastor shows back up, everybody listens a little bit. You know how that works. Housekeeping, let's get right down to it. What an iconic picture that was of Trump. And yeah, look at that. What a great, with the fireworks going off in the back and stuff. I'm not a big political guy, but man, in order for this to happen, so much had to happen in order for that to happen. Next, housekeeping. So we had our 11th Divine Design Natural Health anniversary on February 10th, 2025. Thank you. Put it in your calendars for future years. And remember, a grand majority, before you get off in the weeds on what we're talking about with this topic tonight, just remember, a grand majority of people who come here are actually healthcare professionals. And I will say, some of them will not do video testimonials or put anything on Facebook because heroic life-saving surgery is about 1/10,000% of all the healthcare that is out there. So when people are like, well, what if? That's the number you're talking about. That's your ER. That's not your ER stuff, because if you remember the ER part 1, ER part 2, most of the ER stuff is not life-saving emergencies like gunshots and car accidents. The chronic, and if you want to know what they really are, go watch ER part 1, ER part 2. The chronic disease epidemic started over 100 years ago and it hit full swing in the 50s. People think this is brand new. It's not. New diseases, likewise, appear every day with specialists multiplying all over the world. Isn't it great? Autoimmune diseases are burgeoning. They're coming up with new ones almost weekly. It's nearly irreversible, this trend that we're on, unless we make a hard and abrupt course correction, which is what we're trying to do. That's why this class is existing. You will recall how your family was murdered and sickened for profit. I hate to say it. And one day, I promise you, at some point, one day, people are going to look back at medicine and say, what in the world were they thinking? What do I mean by that? Well, here is a future class. I know you won't be able to read this for good reason. I'm going to read through these. These are some of the medical gifts, okay? I want you to understand. It's alphabetical order. Let me list off some of the medical gifts that you have. Abortion, adrenochrome, allergy clinics, anabolic steroids, artificial intelligence, autistic schools, bioweapons, birth control, birthing centers are a brand new thing. Blood chemistry panels, everybody thinks that's a good thing. Blood donation, horrible thing. Then you've got Bluetooth invading everything like pacemakers, hearing aids, glucose monitors. Then you've got cancer treatment centers, that's a brand new thing. Then, of course, censorship tied in with it the last few years. Chemotherapy, children's hospitals, climate change, that's tied in with medicine, there's a way. We're gonna go through all of this in the future. This is gonna be a whole class. I'm just going to go through and list off everything in alphabetical order that we're going to talk about in future classes, maybe even in March. I'm not sure when. But this is just, if you sit down and you brainstorm for a few minutes, this is what you come up with that came out of medicine. Commercialized cannibalism, we talked about that in some of the blood classes. Depopulation, how many of you know you can't do that without medicine? Dermatology clinics, dialysis centers or dialysis clinics. See where this is going? Elective euthanasia, you and I would call that Medicare. Or nursing homes. Electroshock therapy, that came out of psychiatry. Emergency C-sections. People just love to let that roll off their tongue, don't they, right? Epidemics, such as you're going to learn about tonight, the ones for young people, middle-aged people, and old people. The epidemics for young people, we're calling that autism nowadays. The epidemics for the middle-aged people, we're calling that opiate epidemic. And then the epidemic for the old people is the neurodegenerative Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia thing. So you get all your epidemics out of medicine, okay? Eugenics, fertility treatment centers, that's a brand new thing. Gene editing, which is different than genetic testing. Genital mutilation, which is different than transgenderism, totally different thing. Heart centers, those are brand new. Heroic life-saving surgery, oh, like the stuff you see on TV, right? Hospice care, brand new, never existed before the 60s. Implantable medical records, injectable peptides, I've done whole classes on that. Insurance premiums, yeah, that's tied into a gift from medical land. Integrative health clinics, what is that? That's a medical doctor working with a chiropractor, and they inject people, and it's integrative. So they're integrating chiropractic, natural health stuff into medicine so that they can inject more people. When you see integrative health clinics, know that that's what's going on. Intravenous hydrotherapy, we've talked about that in whole classes. Joint replacements, ketamine clinics, life insurance, actuarial tables, we'll talk about. Lobotomobiles. Does anyone know what I'm talking about with lobotomobiles? No. It is exactly what it sounds like. In the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s, they would drive around and give people lobotomies in their front yards like an Oscar Mayer Wiener truck. Wow. Yeah, we'll go into it. I'll show you pictures of it. Wow. Look it up. Just Google it. You'll see it. Malpractice insurance is only there because of medical mistakes. Medical aesthetics, all the Botox places, all the people who are doing augmentation stuff and facial stuff, medical aesthetics. Medical experiments, medical power of attorney only exists because of medicine. Mental asylums, methadone clinics, nursing homes didn't exist till the 60s. Organ removal, organ transplants, pain management clinics, they're everywhere. Physician-assisted suicide, I grew up in Michigan, thank you, Dr. Jack Kevorkian, physician-assisted suicide. Planned Parenthood, that comes out of medicine. Plasma donation, psychiatry, radiation, radioactive dyes and tracing agents for all your MRIs and CAT scans. Sacrifice, you've got the animal variety and the human variety, two-legged and four-legged. You've got sterilization, transgenderism, which is totally different than transhumanism, and vaccination, and I'm adding to this list on a daily basis. Thank you, medicine. Thank you for everything you've done for the last 150 years, because you've royally screwed everybody. Isn't that great? So, like I said, most of the people who come here, they work in medicine, so they just can't say what I just said. But consider this. If you were to take away a doctor's prescription pad, how would he practice medicine? He couldn't. It would be against the law because his license is part and parcel to poisoning and cutting. That is exactly what he is allowed to do. Likewise, if you shut off electricity at the hospital, what would actually be accomplished without the fancy CAT scans and MRI machines and the electronic health records? What would actually happen at the hospitals? Would doctors touch people and diagnose them? Would they be able to come to a diagnosis without referring to the patient's electronic health records, taking an MRI, putting them through this huge atheistic oracle, and then the machine tells you what it sees? Or would they be able to auscultate and touch people and be able to diagnose the way that they did 100 years ago? No, the answer is a resounding no. Would any relevant procedures or work actually be performed if you cut the electricity and you cut the prescription pad? And people would say, well, if you cut the electricity, nobody could do anything. Really? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff we do here where we don't need electricity. Huh. They've got all the tools. Remember, they've had a monopoly on everything for the last 150 years. What's really happened? Everybody got sicker. Nobody knows where to pee. Nobody can have babies. The infants are dying when they are born, right? I just want people to really wake up to this and go, I got to get out of the system. Because if they don't, guess what happens? They're pulled into it and they think that that's all there is. Remember, when medical offices shut down, life expectancy actually increased. Remember that 5 years ago? Crazy. You know, while all the hospitals were full, quote unquote, the nurses were shooting TikTok dances. Remember? That's when that happened. People show you how much they value you by how much they use your information. Consider that. Just understand, like while you're learning this and while you're trying to talk to your friends and family, people show you how much they value you by how much they use your info. Now, prepare too for RFK. If stuff doesn't happen in the media and with the government and all the satanic pedophiles that are out there, if something doesn't change in the media, you can expect this guy to get smeared. I mean, they've already been trying to do it, calling him a conspiracy theorist and an anti-vaxxer and all this stuff. But so for tonight, just to get everybody caught up on not just some past things that everybody needs to know about, but also some of the present stuff and the future stuff. We are going to cover past, present, and future. In the past, we're going to cover something that you need to know about called the Starfield Report. We're going to briefly bounce off vaccination proofs. And then we're going to go into some obviously obvious observations that everyone needs to know about. Then in the present, we're going to go Children's Health Defense. We're going to talk about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the Health and Human Services, Secretary of Health and Human Services, what's happening. We're going to talk about my absolute favorite Facebook group. It's called The Angry Pharmacist. I recommend you all join it. Then we're going to talk about what your pediatricians are saying about transgender children. So if the pediatricians are saying it in league with the American Medical Association, what does that mean your doctors are now believing? We'll talk about it. And then in the future, we'll talk about the future, not just locally here at Divine Design, but we'll talk about in the country. Sound good? You ready to learn?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do this. I am ready. And this is the best part. It's right at the end. I put it there for a reason. Special exclusive treat. Dr. Royal Lee talking to JFK.
Oh.
Just FYI. Okay, so let's tear right into this. This was about 5 months ago, I guess, and this was one of the first posts that Robert F. Kennedy put up, where I kind of had to take a step back, and I thought, wow, what is going to happen if this goes down? He says the FDA's war, this is October 25th of last year. FDA's war on public health is about to end. This includes its aggressive suppression of psychedelics, peptides, stem cells, raw milk, hyperbaric, chelating, ivermectin, hydroxy, vitamins, clean foods, sunshine, exercise, nutraceuticals, and anything else that advances human health and can't be patented by pharma. If you work for the FDA and are part of this corrupt system, I have 2 messages for you. 1, preserve your records, and 2, pack your bags. Oh my goodness, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Now, out of this whole list, hold on, go back. Out of this whole list, just here, everything else is crap, except this right here. But everything else, it's like, you need to do your homework, RFK, but you're on the right track. You're on the right track. People ask me about this and this all day long. Ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. Number 1, it's a drug. Number 2, it's a drug. That's all I'll say. Next. So the past, so to get caught up, I'm going to tell you about this study that, this paper that was published 25 years ago. Dr. Barbara Starfield published a shocking review of the American healthcare, of American healthcare in the Journal of the American Medical Association. If you know, Journal of the American Medical Association, JAMA, that's like the American, the Lancet is big in Britain, you know, it's the British published, you know, article, journal, medical journal. In America, it's called JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association. If you take the J off of it, it's the American Medical Association, it's the AMA. So it's the Journal of the AMA. In 2000, July of 2000, she published this article that blew everybody's minds. And it said the US medical system kills almost 250,000 people a year with drugs, mistreatments, and errors. Remember, this was 25 years ago, okay? How long did it take for them to go from killing 0 people a year to 250,000? It's anybody's guess, but it's definitely been in the last 100 years, right? The AMA has only been around about 100 years. So per decade, if you take just under 250,000 people and multiply it times 10, you've got 2.25 million dead people a year. And this was just estimated from a paper from 25 years ago. So where are we now post-COVID's hoax? Millions more are severely injured. Didn't even go into, I'll show you. But since the report was written, conservative estimates then would predict that 625,000 million medical murders have occurred since the report was written. Isn't that nuts? Oh, go back. We're not done. But since the 2020 COVID hoax, that number would obviously be much higher. It's unbelievable. Next. So until her death, she was a revered public health expert. She worked at Johns Hopkins. Since the publication of her review, the government has done absolutely nothing. There hasn't been one significant congressional hearing. You could accurately say it's been censored, even though it was actually published. But over the past 25 years, no doctors came to her defense publicly. Nobody came and said, hey, she's right. Next. And this means that there had to have been widespread censorship within the medical ranks 25 years ago, right? This also shows that the truth that she uncovered was supposed to be kept silent, and it was. And now, in 2025, we know how many mainstream doctors and medical bureaucrats have been calling for censorship of online medical, quote-unquote, disinformation. It reached new heights during COVID's, and it has not stopped. Okay? Excellent. Take a commercial break. Heidi, you ready for a little commercial? Everybody give Heidi a round of applause.
Alrighty. So this patient, she said, I had crippling back pain after bending over. For the rest of the day, I had severe pain with walking and couldn't get out of bed or up from sitting without assistance. The next day, I contacted Divine Design, and they saw me that day. Immediately after my adjustment, I was 50% better. 2 days later, I was 75% better. Today, 1 week later, I am almost pain-free. They are truly working miracles here. I can pick up my daughter and hold her again. I am confident that the problem is being fixed and not just maxed with pharmaceuticals and surgery. I am so grateful for this practice and the work that they do here.
If I'm not mistaken, that was a nurse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she knows that that would be a trip to the hospital with painkillers and muscle relaxers and MRIs and CAT scans. All right, let's tear into some, you guys missed the memes, I'm sure, from the last month. That RFK guy's a nut. Pass me the tofurkey and soy casserole. Just a reminder, the conspiracy theorists were right. They shut down the world, killed the economy over a virus that was basically the common cold. They ruined people's small businesses and trampled on our civil liberties for nothing. People died because they censored life-saving information and silenced doctors. They coerced the public with rigged data and threats into being guinea pigs for Big Pharma. They lied about the safety and the effectiveness of the shots and their side effects. They're still hiding the death count from the public. And they committed the greatest crime against humanity in human history, and they just pardoned one of their co-conspirators. Fauci. Next. Mark's safe from believing that mRNA vaccines are going to cure us from the side effects of mRNA vaccines with the Stargate project, right? Soon people will be getting extra vaccines, adding fluoride into their water and adding glyphosate to their food, calling themselves the resistance. What a time to be alive. People say, well, I got those shots when I was a kid. I'm okay. No, you didn't. 10 or 12, 40 years ago? Now we're up to about 60, 70. And if you count these the way that they should be counted, like DTaP, that's 3 different shots in one. So do the math. Next. Are you trying to go to sleep? Yes, I have to get up early. I wonder what Trump's going to do tomorrow. Bing! Being a conspiracy theorist is spending endless hours for years and years gathering as much information as possible from as many resources as possible, critically thinking about what that information means, then having people who do nothing but watch TV tell you you're crazy. Yeah. This is my new favorite meme.
That's so absurd.
This is my new favorite meme. Introverted but willing to discuss Nephilim.
I want this shirt, though.
I know. That's my new favorite. That's the top of my list right now. I know. I look at that one about 5, 10, 15 times a day. Next. So, causes of death. Remember. Let's go to the article. I want to show you this in real time, like in real life. Like, this is what this article said. And I remember when this article came out, it caused a splash because everybody was like, look, see, the doctors are killing everyone. And this was 25 years ago. So remember, this is Barbara Starfield. It's commonly referred to as the Starfield Report. You'll hear it referred to. If you just Google this, not that I recommend Google, but if you go and you just do an internet search for this, you will find this paper. And it says, is U.S. health really the best in the world? So I'm going to read this. I'm going to just read certain paragraphs. So starting right here. Information concerning the deficiencies of U.S. medical care has been accumulating. The fact that more than 40 million people have no health insurance is well known. The high cost of the healthcare system is considered to be a deficit, but seems to be tolerated under the assumption that better health results from more expensive care. Despite evidence from a few studies indicating that as many as 20 to 30% of patients receive contraindicated care, meaning not what they needed, right? In addition, with the release of the IOM, or the Institute of Medicine report to Err is Human, which is another famous study, right? Millions of Americans learned for the first time that an estimated 44 to 98,000 among them die each year as a result of medical errors. The fact is that the U.S. population does not have anywhere near the best health in the world. Remember, this is 25 years ago. Have we gotten better or worse in 25 years? Much worse. Of 13 countries in a recent comparison, the United States ranks an average of 12th, second from the bottom. For 16 available health indicators, countries in order of their average ranking on the health indicators, with the first being the best, are Japan, Sweden, Canada, France. Skipping ahead, rankings of the United States on the separate indicators are 13th for low birth weight, 13th for neonatal and mortality. Remember, up here it said that they averaged 12th place out of 13. So neonatal mortality and infant mortality overall, last place. Birth weight, last place. 11th for post-neonatal mortality, so second to last place, right? 13th for years of potential life lost, last place. 11th for, you see how this is freaking people out in the medical community 25 years ago, right? This was 25 years ago, and people still haven't figured this out. This was in a major, this was in JAMA. This was in their journal. This is a big deal, right? I'm showing you guys this. Nobody's going to see this. You're never going to see this on the news. This will not be on 60 Minutes. Dan Rather will not talk about this. Morley Schaefer will not talk about this. You hear me? 10th for life expectancy at 15 years for females, 12th for males. So you're in almost last place, you know, for life expectancy at every age. Third for life expectancy at 80 years. Okay, so if you're an old female, you're doing all right. 10th for age-adjusted mortality. So basically, American healthcare's crap. She opened it up with a great paragraph at the beginning saying, a lot of people say it's just, you know, you got to have more expensive testing in order to get better healthcare. And she's like, no, that's not it. So the poor performance of the United States was recently confirmed by our good friends at the World Hoax Organization, which used different indicators using data on disability-adjusted life expectancy, child survival to age 5, experiences with the healthcare system, disparities across social groups, and experiences with the healthcare system and quality of family out-of-pocket expenditures for healthcare regardless of need or services. This report ranked the United States as 15th among 25 industrial countries. So if you jack the data, you can maybe get to number 15 out of 25. So thus the figures regarding the poor position of the United States in health worldwide are robust, whether you go with the Institute of Medicine or you go with the World Hoax Organization. Either way you cut it, she's saying, we're screwed. So are not dependent on the particular, up to the top, measures used. Common explanations for this poor performance fail to implicate the medical system. I wonder why, right? The perception is that the American public behaves badly by smoking, drinking, and perpetrating violence.
Like the other nations don't.
Like the other, yeah, right? So it's all because of the drinking and the smoking, right? So now let's go down to right here, this last paragraph, the real explanation. So I'll just read a couple more paragraphs. I just want you guys to see this. The real explanation for relatively poor health in the United States is undoubtedly complex and multifactorial. From a health system viewpoint, remember what we're talking about tonight, Make America Healthy Again, and we're talking about past, present, future. This was 25 years ago. I'm just giving us a baseline. From a health system viewpoint, it's possible that the historic failure to build a strong primary care infrastructure could play some role. It's possible because we don't have enough primary care doctors and enough hospitals, the infrastructure, that's what she's talking about. A wealth of evidence documents the benefits of characteristics associated with primary care performance. Of the 7 countries in the top of the average health ranking, 5 have strong primary care infrastructures. Although better access to care, including universal health insurance, is widely considered to be the solution, universal health insurance, socialism, free medicine, is widely considered to be the solution, there's evidence that the major benefit of access accrues only when it facilitates receipt of primary care. The healthcare system also may contribute to poor health through its adverse effects. What does that mean? For example, U.S. estimates of the combined effect of errors and adverse effects that occur because of iatrogenic. What's that word mean? If you've been here for long enough, iatrogenic means caused by doctors. Errors and adverse effects that occur because of iatrogenic damage not associated with recognizable error include. So once again, I'm saying U.S. estimates of the combined effect of errors or adverse effects caused by doctors and not associated with recognizable error, meaning unintentional. We've got 12,000 deaths a year from unnecessary surgery. Remember, this paper, this was 25, the Starfield report, Barbara Starfield, July 26, 2000, put this paper out in JAMA as a critique, as an expose, as a 60 Minutes lid off of the healthcare industry in the United States. And it was nothing but crickets. And here's what she's saying. This is, remember, this is America, 13 out of 13, almost in every category. Now she's breaking down the data for how many people are dead for no reason. 12,000 a year from unnecessary surgery. And remember, she was saying 225,000 people a year die from proper diagnosis medical care in the United States 25 years ago. That's what this is saying. So now she's saying combined effects of errors and adverse events because of doctors, but not associated with error. So you got 12K people dying from just completely unnecessary surgery. You've got 7,000 dying from medication errors in hospitals. Remember, not recognizable error. They just screwed up and didn't mean it. 20,000 deaths per year from other errors in hospitals. That's a lot of errors. How's that work? 80,000 deaths a year from nosocomial infections in hospitals. What does nosocomial mean? What's that word? Nosocomial means hospital acquired. So that means when people go to the hospital, they check into the hospital and they're like, they come out of the hospital and they've got MRSA or they've got C. diff. There's only one place in the world where you catch those problems. It's a hospital. You do not catch MRSA or C. diff, Clostridium difficile, or methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, MRSA. You do not get those outside of hospital. So 80,000 deaths from hospital infections and 106,000 deaths from non-error adverse effects of medications. Remember when we did ER Part 1 and ER Part 2? Why do the reds and blues constantly swirl around every town? Adverse effects of medications. When you hear sirens and you hear ambulances, most of the time it's not, and we even showed you the stats for Bradley County, most of the time it's not a shark bite or a bullet wound or a car accident. It's this. It's adverse effects of medications. So these total to 225,000 deaths a year from doctor causes, right? 3 caveats have to be noted. First, most of the data are derived from studies on hospitalized patients, so they're already sick. Second, these estimates are for deaths only and don't include adverse effects that are associated with disability or discomfort. So they got screwed, but they didn't die, number 2. Number 3, the estimates of death due to error are lower than those in the IOM report, the Institute of Medicine report, the one we mentioned 5 minutes ago. If the higher estimates were used, the deaths due to doctor-caused causes would range from 230 to 284, so it would go up a little bit. In any case, just under 250,000 deaths per year constitutes third leading cause of death in the United States. Read that again. 25 years ago, 250,000 deaths per year constitutes the third leading cause of death in the United States after deaths from heart disease and cancer. This was 25 years ago. Do you think we've gotten better or gotten worse? This is in the Journal of the American Medical Association. This is the Barbara Starfield report. You can find it anywhere. Even if these figures are overestimated, there's a wide margin between these numbers of deaths and the next leading cause of death, cerebrovascular disease. So back to the slides. So basically in review, what I'm trying to say is here's the overview of what she just said. It's the causes of death go in that order. Cerebrovascular, that's strokes. You're saying strokes. Heart disease, cancer, medical doctors, and strokes. Causes of death in the United States 25 years ago. That's the facts. Okay? Here's implications of this whole report. Implications. So the Food and Death, the Fraud and Death Administration has been routinely approving medicines as safe when they actually kill people. True or true? True. They're all neurotoxins with thousands of side effects. They're all chemical poisons that require this guy to give you the prescription and this guy to fulfill it. They're all controlled substances. So the FDA has been routinely approving medicines that are unsafe and that kill people. We all know that. If you go here, you know that. Number 2, prestigious medical journals routinely publish glowing studies of medical drugs that are actually killing people. True or true? Like the Journal of the American Medical Association, right? Number 3, the federal government has done nothing substantial to reform the deadly medical system. Right? True? Number 4, The mainstream press absolutely failed to follow up or investigate this explosive ongoing tragedy. The Institute of Medicine said the same thing that Barbara Starfield said, which is what the same thing that JAMA said, which is what the same thing was that the World Health Organization was saying. I thought the World Health Organization was here to help people's health. The mainstream press totally ignored it. Number 5, the Center for Disease Creation has never highlighted any of this as a cause of disease. Is this surprising to anyone? And then number 6, the FDA has never made moves to overhaul its drug approval process. Never once. Not ever. So what does that say? That says you are in a system of death. That's what that says. So that's the Starfield report. I wanted you to be familiar with that, because if anybody tries to tell you that, oh, we just have better testing now, and that's why all the kids are autistic, we couldn't figure it out 25 years ago. No, you're educated. You can go. Have you ever heard of the Starfield report? This lady worked for Johns Hopkins and put this thing together in JAMA. Never heard of that? Yeah, you might want to look into that. Vaccine proofs. I'm not going to belabor this. You know how I feel about the shots. But remember that vaccines, when you get into a conversation with somebody, what is the first thing they talk about? Polio. Yes. What about polio? Would you wish that all these children get polio? It's like what they were saying to RFK when he was saying, I just want transparency, and I just want kids, and I want America not to be sick. And they're like, screw you. You want to cripple the drug companies. And that's... But remember that vaccines, they are consistently touted, consistently revered as the prime medical miracle. Look at how many hundreds of millions of people we saved with the polio shot. Oh, really? Really? Well, okay, even if that were true, let's just, you know what? Let's just say, okay, you know what? You're right. You saved millions of people with the polio shot. Let's just say that for a minute. My next question would be, what have you done since then? That was 80 years ago. Where have you been? You knocked one out of the park with a polio shot, but what about arthritis? What about diabetes? Where did that autism thing come from? So when people bring up that belabored, stupid argument of polio, just remember that. That's their one little medical miracle, and you know what happened to the people after they got the polio shot? Where did all these cancers come from? But I could teach a whole class on polio. I don't want to go into it right now. But right here is what you're always going to hear, but they don't think, what's been happening for the last 80 years, ever since polio? Yeah, why haven't we fixed headaches? Why haven't we fixed, allergies, right? Oh, polio, we knocked that out of the park. Remember the difference, though, between industry science and independent science. And what we just did right there was a good example of independent science being featured in industry science. What do I mean? Barbara Starfield goes and does all of these reports and does all this data crunching, and then she gets it published in JAMA. So what did she do? She did her own independent science and got it published in industry science. Genius, right? So remember, I talked about this a lot back when we did the 5G EMF classes. And I told people, like, here's this, you've got research on both sides. And that's what RFK is saying. He's saying you've got research on both sides. You've got studies over here that say vaccines are wonderful and that there's no harm. And then you've got studies over here that I'll show you here in a minute that say vaccines are horrible and there's all kinds of harm. Who do you believe? All you have to do is look at who funded the studies. Okay? Over here, all the people that say the vaccines are great and there's no harm, look at who published those studies. Look at who paid for those studies to be written. What are you going to find? You're going to find industry science. Over here, these people over here, you're going to have, they're saying, hey, we've run a cohort study on millions of kids, and we've done vax versus non-vaxxed kids in the Amish community, and we've done this and that. They're not, look and see who published those studies, who paid for them. What are you going to find? They were done by independent people. So you've got industry science over here, all bought and paid for. You've got independent people over here, not bought and paid for, just people legitimately trying to find the truth. Who do you think is going to get more airtime? Right. So remember the difference between industry people and independent people. Also, if you want to know more about the vaccine stuff, look at Shotpocalypse, Children of Shotzilla, Nothing But the Blood, New Age for Old Devils, Snake in the Vein. I'm not going to belabor this. This is just, it's open and shut. I've also got a 14-inch binder with all of the pharmaceutical vaccine monographs, all of the ingredient lists. If you want us to look at on the coffee table, I've got thousands of hours of documentaries. I've got hundreds of books. You're not going to talk me down on this one. and then see vaccine and autism articles from PubMed. If you really, really want to go down the rabbit hole, go to pubmed.gov. It's a publication, a medical publication. That's what it stands for. .org. It's a government website. It's all of the published research studies. You can type in vaccines and autism and look what comes up. Look what comes up. It'll shock you. Yeah, that's all I want to say about that. You'll find all kinds of articles, peer-reviewed articles about vaccines and autism. Just put in those two words, vaccines and autism, and look what pops up. You'll find thousands of papers, and you'll never see any of them on TV. And we also have links to published peer-reviewed papers if you want a list of peer-reviewed papers of just showing vaccines and autism. If you want the books, the documentaries, you'll never see any of this on TV. The truth is out there. It's very well known these days. People know about it. But don't forget about the COVIDs thing and what they called long COVIDs. Then people say, oh, I've got long COVID. I've got long COVID. No, you've got vaccine injury. That's what you're poisoned. And we have been right all along, and it feels wonderful. And I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. Obvious observations. So just the fact that we even have a MAGA movement in the United States is shocking. It should be shocking that people would disagree with this, kind of like the people that disagree with the people in the government who've been stealing your money for decades getting caught. It's kind of shocking. But how did this occur? Well, the richest nation in history with a bunch of unlimited access to every drug, vaccine, surgery, and procedure also has the worst health care. Isn't that interesting? So to prove the decline of American healthcare, you don't need to argue with people about double-blind, placebo-controlled, clinical, randomized research trials and white papers. These travesties, they're simply observable in everyday society. What do I mean? Let's go. Let me show you. Objections to obvious observations. People are going to say, and this is the stuff that people will throw at you before you point out the obvious, which we'll get to. My family doesn't believe I'm getting better since I'm coming here. My relatives think I'm crazy for coming off my meds and ditching my CPAP. But how can you say my disease isn't real? You say autism's, or not autism. You say that, allergies, you don't have allergies and you don't have a chemical imbalance. How can you say that? My medical doctor told me. They also say, but I have great insurance. My healthcare is free. That's a lie that you believe. But I go to a specialist who's the only person in the world that knows about my disease. But even Johns Hopkins and Mayo Clinic and MD Anderson and Vanderbilt couldn't figure out my disease. How are you? How's a chiropractor going to figure it out? We don't have to figure it out. That's the beauty of it, right? And my doctor says my problem has nothing to do with food. How many times are you going to hear that, right? So here's some of your responses. Here's some of the things that are just obviously obvious out there, observable in the world that you can point out. Despite well over 100 years of the medical mafia's monopoly, you could point out that the food pyramid was a catastrophic fraud, right? They're saying high sugar, they're saying high carbohydrates, low fat, low protein. You don't want a lot of low fat and low protein. You don't want a lot of fat and protein. You want high carbohydrates. And they did that for years. What happened? Diabetes happened, right? Countless drug ads on the media. You can't even get away from a bus driving in front of you at a stoplight. There's pharmaceutical ads on the side of the buses. Most people are on, what does this word mean? Multiple drugs. So when you're talking to somebody at church, it might not be a demon. It might be polypharmacy. Diabetes is rampant. That's diabetes and obesity. That's a word that's been circulating for years now. It's rampant in grade schools. You know how many fat kids you used to have in your school? You used to have one when I was a kid, maybe one. Now, Jonathan used to be the fat kid. That's why he's back there laughing. No, needle bins are in all the public bathrooms. I've talked about this. More injections are being created and added to the vaccine schedule each year, and now they're making them, AI vaccines with mRNA technology. It's nuts. And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care that we are as it was in the days of Noah. But here come the peptides and the IV therapy. Done whole classes on that. Snake in the vein. Next. Remember, these are some of the problems that people don't think about. Autism rate, 1 in 32. You know that? Just the fact that we have to put these three words together and that there are multiple of those across the nation should be a concern. There are now hundreds of autoimmune conditions. Every one of them has a support group. that you can go to and you can commiserate with other people who've been told that they can't do anything. Isn't this great? And they're all sponsored by the hospitals. Every disease has an organization focused on finding a cure as long as you donate. The cancer rates are 1 in 2 adults. Look around, look to your left, look to your right. Guess what? According to the CDC and the World Hoax Organization, one of you is going to eat it. Pharmacies are on every corner, and if it couldn't get any worse, you got Walgreens, which somehow always is across kitty corner from CVS. How does that work? They're owned by the same company. That's the only way it could work. Pediatric dentistry centers are springing up everywhere. We talked about this at the end of the 21 predictions of Dr. Royally. Nursing homes didn't exist in the 60s. Dementia centers, where'd those come from? See above. Drug rehabs didn't exist, but we renamed those. We call them treatment centers now, just because that has a bad rap. Look at your family photos of people in the 1960s, compare it to 50 years, 60 years later. Look at what happened. Mental aberrations are commonplace in the young and old. We talked about that. And most U.S. school children are considered psych patients. Next. I mean, abortion's the leading killer. Therapists. You got PTs, OTs, RTs. Physical, occupational, respiratory have sprung up. They're distinct professions now. And PAs and NPs were created by the insurance companies so that you could drug more people under one doctor's license. That's where those came from. They were invented by insurance companies. Medical bills and insurance premiums are leading many to bankruptcy. So, those are some appropriate responses that you can shoot down Uncle Chad and Aunt Karen with at the turkey potluck. And people are living sicker and dying quicker. Medicine has no idea what's making you sick with all the technology and all the crap we've got. But man, you've got 800 channels on your TV. That's cool. It's impossible to poison someone back to health. And your MD is never going to say anything, but it's definitely not your lifestyle. It's genetic. There's nothing you need to change. And man, you sure have great insurance. Yes. And after all of this, there's still no drug that has ever actually cured a disease. Brittany? That's a good question, Brittany. Thank you. It was simply renamed after the vaccine was brought to market. What do you mean they renamed it? Guillain-Barré syndrome, AFP, acute flaccid paralysis, transverse myelitis, multiple sclerosis, muscular neuropathy, cerebral palsy, Bell's palsy. You just call it all kinds of different things. You take away the reward for diagnosing polio and you call it something else, and everybody thinks the vaccine cured the thing. Right? Kind of like we did with the COVIDs, only now it's called long COVIDs. Swap out the iron lung for a ventilator, label the vaccine injury as long COVIDs while ignoring clots and heart problems. Boom. You got the same thing they did with polio 80 years ago. People fell for it. And then still, you'll get Christians and evangelists and pastors who come in here saying, well, I have to eat crap. Because Jesus said when you stay there eating and drinking wherever he's sending out the 70, like Luke 10, I read this morning and said, I got to tell this to somebody. This just was blazing across my head. I said, oh, I got to write this down. This somebody has to hear. And whether it's here or whether it's recorded 10 years from now, somebody has to know this. Jesus is sending out the 70 and he says, stay there, eating and drinking whatever they give you, for the worker deserves his wages. Don't move around from house to house, stay there. And when you enter a town and are welcomed, eat what's offered to you. So that's right. I've heard that a million times for people just going, I have to eat what they give me. Problem? It's right here. This is the reality. Back then, when Jesus said this, fake poisonous disease-causing pseudo-food industrial byproducts did not exist. Yeah. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Paul, Peter, you name it. None of this crap existed back then. So when they were putting stuff in front of people, they ate it because it was real food. Oh, yeah. Oh, breaks my heart. Oh, yeah. Keep that up for a minute, Jonathan. We got a commercial break. You ready, Heidi?
Yep.
So, give Heidi a round.
Right. So this patient said, before coming to Divine Design Natural Health, I was a mess. I couldn't eat without getting sick or being in pain. I visited specialists, had just about every test done, and tried several medications. Nothing helped, and the test didn't give me any answers. Finally, a doctor said, let's just take out your gallbladder and see what happens. To have another organ gone and still be left with the same problem? No, thank you. At the same time, I was also dealing with crippling anxiety. It caused severe panic attacks daily that interfered with my work and personal life. I didn't want to go anywhere and only wanted to sleep. This is when a friend told me about Dr. Brett. I almost didn't call. I almost didn't keep my appointment, but I'm so glad I did. I learned how to eat proper foods and not toxic junk. As we worked on detoxifying my body, I noticed changes right away. I was no longer in excruciating pain every time I ate, and the panic attacks got less and less. I am extremely thankful for Dr. Brett and his whole staff, and that friend that cared enough to reach out and tell me about them.
Somebody saved a life right there. Stop gaslighting parents because, did we go back to the atheism thing? Or no, yeah. Just let that sink in for a minute. You've got all the futurist, secular humanist, big tech, Silicon Valley, California libtards saying we need Elon Musk's robots to save us from paper cuts, right? While at the same time thinking, this is the stupidity, this is medicine in two pictures. While at the same time, this is just a coincidence. Coincidence. So, right there in one picture, that's medicine, and that's the religion that medicine practices. Atheism, which is based on the science of evolution, right? I hate this word, intelligent design. It's creation science, but intelligent design is just the watered down pansy way of saying creation science. That's for the agnostics. But anyway, let's move on. Stop gaslighting parents because they took their research beyond car seats and baby food. Just because you don't care what's injected into your child doesn't mean we should blindly follow your lead, trusting a liability-free corporation that benefits from us remaining sick. Basically says it right there, right? Not wearing a mask puts my family and I at risk. Your obedience to a corrupt government run by psychopaths and a corrupt media that covers for them puts me and my family at risk. Isn't that great? You think everything is a conspiracy, don't you? Well, that's the new Secretary of Health and Human Services. This is who Biden had in there. That's a dude dressed up like a girl.
Scary.
Isn't that crazy? That's where we were 4 years ago. That's a dude. That's a very ugly dude who makes a very ugly female, even when with all the right surgeries and hair. Isn't that crazy? Next. Remember, they're not killing the ducks. They're not killing the seagulls, the eagles, or the quail. Strangely, bird flu only affects chickens, cows, and humans. Isn't that weird? That's just so weird. And there's a bird, and there's the bird flu. People trying to figure out why there's so many drones in the air at night. I don't know why. That's me just a couple months ago. I love the wife. I love the wife cheering him on. Yeah, honey, go for it. You can do it. And he just set his jaw like flint. Now, see, when I tell you I will come to your house and murder your television for free, I mean it. I mean it. I would. I want to help people. Next. I call this one long-term safety data on the collective childhood immunization schedule. Nothing. I love it. I'm going to calcify your pineal gland whether you like it or not. I love that look. Okay, so in the present, that was the past. Here's the present. Children's Health Defense, RFK, and HSS. Here's the kicker. Chronically ill people just stuck in sickness model. They're not happy. They're not productive. And many people don't even know that the stuff that we do even exists. They're just buying their supplements from Facebook ads or some redheaded comedian dude on YouTube. Okay? Here's a link I want us all to look at real quick. Here's like the big announcement. Here's Children's Health Defense is the organization, is the website that Bobby Kennedy runs or was closely associated with, at least up until this. It's called The Defender, this little website and movement that he's doing. RFK Jr., he's going to investigate all possible causes of chronic disease, including what? See what I mean? What a time to be alive, because this is the only dude in that whole DC swamp that could do this. He's been fighting this stuff for 30 years. He can read the research. He knows what's going on with the vaccines. He can read the journal articles. He can argue with these people. He's a lawyer, right? He's a lawyer that knows how to do this. In his first address to his staff, RFK pledged to subject potential causes of chronic disease, even the controversial ones, to unbiased scientific investigation. This was just a week ago, February 18th. So let's see what this says. In his first address to his staff, RFK pledged to subject potential causes of chronic disease to unbiased scientific investigation. Nothing is going to be off limits, including his personal past beliefs, he said. On the 13th, the White House issued an executive order establishing the MAGA Commission. Yes. Kennedy said today that as part of that agenda, he's going to direct HHS to investigate many possible causes of the chronic disease epidemic in the U.S. Chronic disease epidemic. Like what? How's it possible, seeing as how we've got all the drugs and the surgeries and the vaccines for 150 years? But there it is. Some of the possible factors we will investigate were formerly taboo or insufficiently scrutinized. Those who are unwilling to embrace those kinds of ideas can retire. Remember, pack your bags, keep records, and pack your bags. Before and during his confirmation hearings, Kennedy came under fire from Democrats and the mainstream media for raising questions about vaccine safety. Today, he included the childhood vaccine schedule as one of the formerly taboo areas he planned to investigate. Remember, when you saw this confirmation, I've never watched a confirmation in my life, but that thing was 4 hours. We had it going on Wednesday morning. I forget, February 12th or something like that. And that thing went for 4 hours. And all you heard was these people screeching and screaming. All he wanted was for American people to figure out why they're being made sick. And all you heard was these Congress people and all these Democrats just screaming, you're going to cripple the drug companies. Don't you know? Don't you know? Don't you know? You're going to cripple the drug companies. And he's like, yeah, that's why I'm here. Just epic, savage, epic. Kennedy said he planned, other potential drivers of the chronic disease epidemic the agency will investigate will include EMFs, glyphosate, the stuff that's sprayed on all your corn, soybeans, and wheat, ultra-processed foods, 99% of the grocery store, ultra-processed foods, artificial food additives, you name it. There's thousands of them. Antidepressants, SSRIs, other psychiatric drugs. So that's all the stuff your kids are on. And, well, hell, half your grandkids are on. The antidepressants and the psych drugs, the ADD, ADHD, SSRIs, all the psych drugs. And a group of chemicals known as PFAS, microplastics. Kennedy said he plans to convene stakeholders of all viewpoints and to set study protocols in advance that won't be changed when the results look like they will be inconvenient. Let's all depoliticize these issues, reestablish common ground or action, and renew the search for existential truths with no political impediments and no preconceptions. He also said he'll work to remove conflicts of interest on HHS advisory committees in order to reestablish the public's trust. Yay. That right there, what a time to be alive. This is what's happening. Unbelievable, right? So, here's another little thing, the angry pharmacist. I want to show you this. So I'm not on Facebook anymore. I got off Facebook 5 years ago. But I do have my profile still up in order to run, because the business Facebook is linked to my thing. So there's really only one group that I really give a rip about on Facebook anymore. And it's funny because it's called the Angry Pharmacist. And the Angry Pharmacist is the most vile group of 40,000 pharmacists, techs, retail people, CEOs, high level, low level, work at Walgreens, work at CVS, doesn't matter, teaching in colleges. 40,000 pharmacy people all in there hating their job, complaining about retail, telling students not to pursue the career. I just picked the best of the best of the best of the best. And I read this stuff and I am floored. If people knew that these are the cats they're getting their drugs from, there would be blood in the streets. That's all I'm saying. They're broadcasting how stupid their customers are. Who are their customers? broadcasting that, bragging about the drugs, the vaccines, their superior credentials. They are legitimately thinking that they're saving lives with critical meds. Like there's life-saving medications that they have to get to people, and they are on the front lines. It is comical. I recommend all of you join this group. It is hilarious. But they do have an entrance exam, I think probably because of me telling people to go join this group. So now you have to answer a few questions. But this dumpster fire is an embarrassing travesty, and anybody can watch it. Anybody can see it. It's unbelievable. But there's a guy named Bob Gambler, and one day, about 3-4 weeks ago, I woke up on a Saturday, and I could not believe. I thought, oh, Jesus, I've prayed for this for years. It's finally happening. What was it? Bob Gambler mentions the word pharmakia on the Angry Pharmacist Facebook page. What happened? Civil war happened, and it was beautiful. Let me show you. Here's a couple screenshots. Oh, and here, just for review, in the next slide, you're going to see like where he says, I want everybody in this group to read Revelation 18:23, and let's discuss it. What's Revelation 18:23? Right here. So I woke up on a Saturday. I get this notification on my phone. I see it, and I'm like, this is in the Angry Pharmacist. Somebody's talking about pharmakia. I have to see this. I've prayed about this for years. But here's 18:23. The light of a lamp will never shine in you again. The voice of bridegroom and bride will never be heard in you again. Your merchants were the world's important people. By your magic spell, all the nations were led astray. This is the NIV. The KJV says, by your sorceries, all nations were deceived. Okay, that's NIV. I just threw it in there. Revelation 18:23, because I wanted some context for you to understand. He said, Bob Gambler, right there. He said, I challenge all religious, that means Buddhism, Islam, Christian, etc., pharmacists, techs, corporate district managers, regional managers, CEOs, etc., to give me feedback on one verse. I read this and was like, oh, I know this is one of the 4 places in the Bible where pharmakia is mentioned. And he says, give me feedback on one verse. And he says, use the Greek concordance if needed, no rush. What does he know? He knows they're going to, if they even know what a Greek concordance is, they're going to look it up and they're going to see pharma. They're going to see that. He knows. I thought, who is this guy? Who is this guy? Who is this guy? So I woke up and I must have sent this to like 4 or 5 other people I knew. And I'm like, it's happening. You're not going to believe this. I was like a kid in a candy store. What happened? Well, immediately, and remember, there were hundreds of comments on this because there's 40,000 people in this group. Hundreds of comments. So I just picked a few to take kind of a brief look at what you would see in a big giant argument like this. Janice, of course, says, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. What's her solution? She says, work, get paid, go home to your family. The world is 50 shades of gray, not black and white, and the judging part is not for you. It's for the Lord. Amen. In other words, stay ignorant. Don't look into it. Right? Work, get paid, and go home. Because there are other, I could have put a lot of other things in here, but basically many people were saying that. Look, I'm getting paid, 120 grand a year to work 3 days. I don't care what you say. That's what most of them were saying. She was nice enough to tell the guy to go pound sand. What are sorceries? What are you talking about? And then Bob says, hey, I'm not judging. I'm just warning what's eventually coming. See my reply under this other Mike Willie comment. I'm not throwing prescriptions under the bus. Lots of good stuff still made. My warning is the direction. It's a 180-degree turn during my 45 years of practice. So we've established now that Bob Gambler is a 45-year pharmacist, right? That's why I took a picture of this one. Next. Then I came out of retirement. I hadn't made a Facebook comment in 5 years, and I said, this is it. I came out of retirement. I put my jersey and my cleats back on. I got in the game. I said, put me in, coach. And so later on, I did say this. We'll come back to this. But Dino Pumphrey is saying, I don't understand the point of this post. And by this point, it's just going on, and things are just piling up. And you're like, this is going to be so good. If this doesn't get him banned or get totally deleted, this is going to be so good. I've been waiting for this. And then Mike Willie says, Bob, really? Are you dispensing drugs or taking them? You're not seeing the funniness of that comment. You're just laughing at the funny side of it, and I understand that. But what is Mike Willie saying right there? He's saying, I'll tell you what he's saying. He's saying, if you're on drugs, I can't trust your judgment. Isn't he? Are you taking the drugs or are you selling them? Right? So what do we have here? We have pharmacists arguing with other pharmacists about, are you on the wrong meds? Are you not on the right meds? Are you taking too many meds? Or are you off the meds that you should be on? Isn't that interesting? They don't even trust each other because do you see? It's not just a flippant comment. It's ironic that he doesn't see what he just said, right? And then down here, Bob Gamler says, Mike, pharmakia goes back to Babylon, perhaps before, and then he lists this just tirade, this big, giant paragraph of going back into Babylon all the way to Rockefeller. And I'm like, this Bob Gamler dude, I like this guy. 45-year pharmacist. So go back to the last one. Then I did a Vietnam firebomb, and I just flew through, and I just said, yes, it's witchcraft. Bob Gamler is completely right. Because I saw where this was going. I didn't see, I just bombed and I got out. I bombed and I got out. I wake up, I run in, do some recon, do some booby traps and get out. Because I wasn't going to sit there and spend my whole Saturday trying to figure out all these people who are obviously on drugs, their judgment. I don't give a rip. So then I walked away and Nadia wrestled the phone out of my hands and then I pulled it back and I fought her off, and I grabbed my phone again, and here's the last thing I posted. I just thought it was so crazy. It's interesting that when a 45-year pharmacist finally puts it all together, other pharmacists accuse him of taking drugs. Dispensed by whom? Themselves. The irony is absolutely fascinating, and yes, he is correct. So that was one of my Saturdays about a month ago. Anyway. That's what we're dealing with in the present. You're dealing with people like this who don't even see they're brain dead to the thing that they just said themselves. Like, you're on drugs. Oh, wait a minute. Where do you get the drugs? Wait a minute. If we can't trust his judgment because he's on drugs, why am I giving drugs to people whose judgment I can't trust? American Academy of Pediatricians on TGD kids. What's TGD? Oh, you'll see it. Here's what modern pediatricians, present day, remember we're in present. Here's what modern pediatricians say about hormones and surgery for toddlers. Check this out. Oh, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. The link. Publications at the American Academy of Pediatrics.org. So blow this up a little bit. I want you to see. Ensuring comprehensive care. Blow this out. Let's zoom out a little bit just so people can see. American Academy of Pediatrics. This is their website. Dedicated to the health of all children. This is publications at aap.org. This is the American Academy of Pediatrics website, okay? Here is one article that they wrote, Ensuring Comprehensive Care and Support for Transgender and Gender Diverse Children and Adolescents. Now, hold on. The fact that you have pediatricians, this is the American Academy of Pediatrics. The fact that you have, hold on, go up. Jason Rafferty, MD, he's in a committee on psychosocial aspects of child and family health, and he's on a committee of adolescents section on lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender health and wellness. That's a medical doctor. This is written by medical doctor, medical doctor, medical doctor, medical doctor, medical doctor. There must be 20 or 15 or 20 medical doctors who wrote this article, their policy statement, in the October 1st, 2018 edition of their journal, Ensuring Comprehensive Care and Support for Transgender and Gender Diverse Children and Adolescents. These are grown adult, male and or female, medical doctors who have gone through 13 years of government indoctrination, grade school to high school. Then they've done at least a 4 or 5 year bachelor's to get into a 4 or 5, 6, 8, or 10 year residency and internship to become a medical doctor. There's 20 of them, and here's what they came up with. Scroll down just a little bit, right here. The policy statement, it was written in 2018. They reaffirmed it 5 years later. Here it is. As a traditionally, I can't believe they're changing the anatomy books for this nonsense. These are demons. It's nothing else, nothing less, nothing more. And this makes me sick. But look at this. As a traditionally underserved population that faces numerous health disparities, youth who identify as transgender and gender diverse, TGD, and their families are increasingly presenting to pediatric providers for education, care, and referrals. The need for more formal training, standardized treatment, and research on safety and medical outcomes often leaves providers feeling ill-equipped to support and care for patients that identify as TGD and families. In this policy statement, we review relevant concepts and challenges and provide suggestions for pediatric providers that are focused on promoting the health and positive development of youth that identify as TGD while eliminating discrimination and stigma. What's this basically saying? It's saying we've got all these kids walking in with a disease, some kind of cancer, some kind of mental problem, some kind of allergy, asthma, diabetes, and instead of trying to figure out the source and what's really happening, we're just going to do more education, more referrals. We're going to refer people to, the Jesuit Illuminati Freemasons that we play golf with on Saturday. And then the need for more formal training, standardized treatment. What does that mean? More drugs. More formal training. We need to do these big roundtables at all the universities, all the medical centers, and we need to have formal training on how to deal with these kids so that we can get them into standardized treatment, more research on safety and medical outcomes. That's what that's saying. Instead of trying to figure out what is the problem, besides crappy parenting, what is the problem, instead of trying to figure it out, we just do more drugs. That's what that says. That's your pediatricians. Honey bunny, if your pediatricians are doing that, what are your oncologists doing? It is a mind virus that has infected all of medicine, and you are not going to change it. That is the American Academy of Pediatrics, and that's 20 of their doctors who wrote a massive thing on how we're going to do this. Because we're obviously not going to look for why all these kids think they're turning the frogs gay, and nobody knows why, right? Unbelievable. So what can we do in the future? Here goes. With knowing that, what can we do? Well, I'm cautiously optimistic that things will change. I believe that there are just too many awake people out there who just aren't going to stand for this nonsense. All the moms of vaccine-damaged kids, all the people out there with kids, then they're just like, oh, my kid's been sick their whole life. Oh, the doctor told me it was genetic. Oh, they're on a bunch of drugs. Oh, they're just throwing their life away and they can't concentrate because they're on all these meds. Well, there's millions of those people. Millions. There's tens of millions of them. But don't expect your politicians or your government to fix the food, the air, the water, the meds, the shots, all of it. Don't expect that. You have to do it on your own. Now, will they? I don't know, man. I don't know. I like RFK. He's been in every documentary that I own in that front lobby. He is in one of those. He's in those documentaries. He's interviewed in every one of those documentaries. He's been doing this for 20, 30 years. So I trust him. I want to trust him, but I also know he's a lawyer. I also know he's a DC lawyer. I also know he's got, assassination written into his genetic code. So how do we get past that? But you just pray for protection for these people. And I'm hoping that he can pull some things off. Trump, same thing. Tulsi Gabbard, same thing. Kash Patel. We want the Epstein client list. We want Diddy's list. We want all of it. But don't expect your politicians or your government to do it. You got to do it. Because believe me, they're not going to fix your tap water anytime soon. You got to fix your tap water. Your healthcare is your responsibility and no one else's. So that's one thing that a lot of people fail to understand. We'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. But this is the healthcare of the future right here. This is what I'm telling you. This is what you've been waiting for. This is what you thought you wanted from your doctor's office, what I'm about to show you. History will show us to be the truthful victors. Our generation will be known for this battle. This is big. This is the thing. This is the hill to die on. And if you don't want to die on this hill, at least die on the get rid of the Fed, get rid of the IRS hill. That's a good hill to die on too. And then we will fight for our health and for your family's future. What do I mean? Let's check this out. This is what we provide and how we're planning for the future of Make America Healthy Again. This is how we do it. You miss a link. Right here. This is how we do it. So we changed up how we bring patients in probably about a year ago, 2 years ago, I think. And it's gotten so much better and so much easier because then now people just go to patient information and they can go hover over this, patient information. New patients, yeah, click on that. New patients, they can decide, scroll down on this. Step 1, don't even read on if you're not teachable, resourceful, and committed. If you're just dipping your toes in and I'll try this, but I'm not really on board, well, then go somewhere else. Step 2 is decide your level of commitment. We're going to do bronze. We're going to do silver. We're going to do gold. You pick. You choose. And if you click here, it's the details of what's included in each program. Step 3, schedule an interview. Step 4, complete the paperwork, blah, blah, blah. Go back up to the top. So there's like a 4-step process for whether you're silver, bronze, or gold, depends. Then go to FAQs. Why don't you see this? So we scroll down here. We answer a lot of the questions that people already have. How can I possibly get well? Do you take my insurance? Well, let me just read through these. Isn't natural health care expensive? I already know my diagnosis and what my treatment should entail. I really only need XYZ treatment or test. How many times do you think we hear that, right? Because their medical doctor told them that they have multiple sclerosis, right? And so they got to have this test, or they got to do this, or they got to do that. And they don't want to go the drug route or the vaccine route or the surgery route. So they call around all the places that say natural in the name, right? And we get the phone call. Can you treat my specific condition or diagnosis? There's only 2 specialists in the whole world that know anything about it. And I have to fly to Paris, France to talk to the specialist. Can I just come in for one visit and get a quick fix like my $50 copay doctor? I consult Dr. Google and follow Miss Instagram. How are you any different? Do you recommend ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, chlorine dioxide, EDTA, iridology, apple cider vinegar, baking soda, castor oil, live blood cell microscopy, Himalayan Sherpa dung, intravenous colloidal silver, keto pills? The list goes on and on and on. My previous MD naturopath functional medicine doctor read my blood labs and said my condition is due to XYZ. Is this correct? Is a chiropractor even a real doctor? How can chiropractic help my condition? Is natural health care safe? I already have medical coverage through my employer Medicare or the VA. Why should I actually pay for my health care? Can you do my blood work, hormone panels, and x-rays? How can I come off my prescription meds? My child's sick. Do you see kids? Are you naturopathic, homeopathic, holistic? You get the point, right? Go back up to the ivermectin one, because this is the one that just... It's like everybody sees Joe Rogan and they're like, oh, I got to get ivermectin. But ivermectin's made by who? Drug companies, right? Does it have side effects? Of course it does. So we understand your distrust in the current healthcare system and that many websites, podcasts, and social media influencers recommend some form of silver bullet, one-shot wonder miracle cure. While we obviously cannot say we've heard them all, you should understand we're very familiar with these approaches. We also understand your diligent search for a silver bullet, one-shot wonder miracle cure for your health, but logic and reason conclude that there's no such thing. Your list of health concerns undeniably came from years of bad choices and believing false information regarding how true health is achieved and how it's maintained. There are many things we do that most websites, podcasts, and social media influencers have never contemplated and that leave silver bullet treatments in the dust. Our testimonials speak for themselves. There's no panacea. Your health will return with 2 things: your time and energy invested in changing the habits that currently plague you. Click here, see our Biblical Health Manifesto. So what are we doing to make sure, make America healthy again? Blow that up a little bit. Biblical Health Manifesto. We may not be what you're looking for, but we're exactly what you need. We will not inject you with anything. We will not renew your prescriptions. We will not check your thyroid levels. And I know, why did I write this? Why did I write this? Because all of this right here is crap, but it's what people think their healthcare needs to be, right? Let me continue. We will not check your thyroid levels. We will not sign your exemption letters. We will not do any type of genetic testing. Your DNA is not living in a BlackRock database. We will not do anything harmful to your body. Wow, isn't that shocking? From a bunch of people that worship Apollo and that took a Hippocratic oath. Isn't that interesting that you have to say this nowadays? That we're not going to do anything that's harmful to you because of what they're used to, right? Will not recommend yet another blood panel. We will not communicate with your medical deities, your medical doctors. We will not review your previous incorrect diagnosis. Because what if they were told that they had multiple sclerosis, but what if they really don't have multiple sclerosis? Or what if they were told they had fibromyalgia, but really it's not fibromyalgia, right? So they'll hop on naturalhealth.com and they'll try to find a certain herb to fix their fibromyalgia, but what if they really don't have fibromyalgia? Is the herb going to work? Unbelievable. I'm telling you, it's just, there's so much deception out there. We will not recommend anything contrary to the book. What's the book? We will not consult the internet for answers to your problems. Why did I put that in there? That's basically saying AI has no place in this office. We will not ask permission from your insurance company or your specialist. We will not send you back to the same people who caused your problems. We will not subject you to displays of ancient pagan idols, as is common in many natural health practices. We will not document your conditions with government or insurance entities, and we will not give you synthetic supplements to offset the effects of your synthetic drugs. Why? We don't need to. What if real natural health care didn't require any of the stuff above that you thought you needed, right? What if everything you think you need was incorrect right from the very beginning? And what if your doctor actually read the manual on how the human body was created and then practiced accordingly? What would happen? Isn't that nuts? 90% of everyone who walks in here is going to get 50 to 90% improvement across all symptoms within 90 days. We're saving lives ahead of time. That's our MAGA movement, and we've been doing it for 11 years now. So, last but not least, review. We'll review this last little part right here, and then we'll talk about the future, the USA part of it. So in review, get rid of your surgeries, we crush your prescriptions, we get your life back. No drugs, no surgery, no kidding. We already covered that. This is mathematical certainty in real time. How do I know? Because we do two things. We decrease the poisons and we increase the nutrition. Both of those things your medical doctors have never done in their lives. Why? Because they increase the poison and they decrease the nutrition. We do exactly opposite that. It's impossible for people who come here not to get better, because everything in this office restores blood flow and life is in the blood. Medicine knows this. That's why they vaccinate you and they drug you. They poison your blood. They know if they can get stuff into your blood. Why do you think they paid people to take a shot that they didn't know what was in? It's nuts. It works every time. Human physiology has never changed since Adam and Eve. Well, not since the fall, after the fall. But the measure of our morality is based on what we leave for future generations. The measure of our morality is based on what we leave, right? Commercial break. Last commercial break, we're almost done. I have a special treat. You're going to love this.
Great. This patient said, I was having slightly irregular periods that were hard to track. I had increased mood swings and just felt like my cycle was disrupting my life too much. Dr. Spradlin put me on an herbal supplement, and a couple of months later, my period was on time and I had absolutely no pain or cramps of any kind. I barely knew it was there.
What was that? Cramps? How many women, fertility stuff, they think they have endometriosis, fibroids, cysts. I mean, the list goes on. What else am I leaving out? Endometriosis. Oh, PCOS. PCOS is everywhere. Polycystic ovarian syndrome. What does syndrome mean again in medical terminology? Interesting. They don't know what causes it, but by God, we got a drug for it. If free speech is a threat to your government is a threat to your country. Your government is very different than your country. I love my country. Can't stand my government. Dr. Boyd Haley, toxicologist, retired professor of chemistry, University of Kentucky. One single vaccine given to a 6-pound newborn is the equivalent of giving a 180-pound adult 30 vaccinations on the same day. And people are like, why are the kids retarded? Why is everybody screwed up? Why are the boys girls and the girls are boys? Remember how we talked about that during the transhumanism class, where we talked about, and the shot class, where we talked about the aborted fetal stem cells, and you've got boy DNA going into the girls and girl DNA going into the bloodstream of the boys. So the boys think they're girls and the girls think they're boys. Interesting. I wonder if that has anything to do with it, right? But if you mention something like that and you show papers where they did it in animals, people think you're nuts. Me watching people finally realize that the entire federal government was a money laundering scheme for politicians all along. Yes. There it is. Disease or disorder, increased since 1990. That's a percentage increase. So when something goes up 11,000%, that means 11x. That's why your coworkers and your friends at church are different. In the last 35 years, so Yeah. Look at that. Remember I talked about autoimmune disorders going through the roof? Bipolar disorder in youth, look at that. Chronic fatigue. I wonder why. What is fatigue? Why are people so tired? Because your food provides your energy. You eat food, so your energy comes from your food. So if people are always tired, what does that tell you about their diet? Mathematically. Like, there's no arguing. Well, I eat healthy. No, you don't. I'm the only one that's going to tell you, no, you don't. Because you think gluten-free crackers from Walmart are healthy. Bad information, right? Chronic fatigue, I just fixed it. That's the simplicity of it right there. Next. Oh, yes. Autism spectrum disorder rates by country. What do you notice? Well, and the dark blue is really low. Red is really high. What do you notice? I'll tell you what you notice. You notice North America and Europe are finished. The Middle East, North Africa, and India, perfectly okay. Interesting, isn't it? Middle East. Huh. Crazy.
And that's at the 1040 window, too.
Mm-hmm.
How's China looking over there?
China's looking great. About half.
Well,
Under.
they kill all their autistic.
Oh,
So,
probably. So 350 under 350. Yeah. Isn't that nuts? So can you make an inference from that? Does that look planned?
Yeah.
Has to be. And I've said before many times in other classes, there's a reason why 99% of the kids you're going to see that are autistic are males. We won't go into it right now, but next. The DNA corruption agenda, as in the days of Noah, I actually own some of these because I bought them when I saw them on the shelf because I couldn't even believe what I was seeing. Yep. And now, how are they changing people's DNA? 5 years after everybody was afraid of the shot, what are they rolling out now? All the injectable peptides. Next. Imagine taking medical advice from a man who just recently got pardoned for the medical advice he gave. God. I don't care if the bird flu hooks up with HIV, monkeypox, and COVID to become a Marvel comic super virus. I'll never comply with another public health order for the rest of my life. Anyone else? I never did. Never wore a mask. Never did anything. I didn't even walk on the arrows the right way. Me trying to calculate how many times society needs to get lied to by the government to realize they're being lied to by the government. That's a lot of math right there. So, special exclusive treat. You in this room are going to see something that probably only a few dozen people in the world have ever seen. You ready? This is a letter from Vitamin Products Company is the mother parent company of Standard Process. So Vitamin Products Company used to be the name of Standard Process. And then Royal Lee wrote this letter June 4th of 1962. Who did he write it to? John F. Kennedy, President of the United States, Washington, D.C. Listen from the grave as I read this letter from Royal Lee to Kennedy. Now remember, RFK, right? How's he related to Kennedy?
great nephew.
Yeah, well, yeah, JFK was his uncle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so whether that's nephew or great nephew, I don't remember. You might be right. But Dr. Royal Lee wrote this, 1962, and here it is. So, a federal grand jury, he's writing this to JFK. This is just about a year and a half before he died. A federal grand jury in Washington, D.C. is now at work in investigating the extent of corruption within the Food and Drug Administration. If you look into this, I'm going to read this for you because I know it's a little blurry, right? I had to blow this up and it kind of made it blurry. If you look into this, you'll find that the corruption is entirely ramifications of illegal meddling into the functions of the FDA by the AMA as a part of their monopolistic control of as much of the field of the healing arts as they can finagle. They certainly have not reformed since their conviction on charges of criminal conspiracy to violate the federal antitrust laws back in 1941 by Thurman Arnold. Moving on. This is Royal Lee talking to JFK. The specific way by which the AMA has a stranglehold on the methods of treatment of disease is by a trick law developed by devious means in which all literature on any food or drug sold to prevent or relieve any disease, deficiency, disease, or otherwise, must say nothing except what has been accepted by the consensus of medical opinion. This stops any maker of a food or drug from telling any doctor about any product that may save life, but which may not have become accepted by the American Medical Association. It actually provides a fine and jail sentence for anyone who may simply give life-saving facts to a doctor that are not in accordance with current medical superstition. A good example is the contention that heart disease has no relation to diet. 750,000 people each year die from this cause that we can prove is preventable. Another situation is a lowered resistance to infection that creates a fertile field for polio, pneumonia, colds, ulcers, respiratory disease, et cetera, The AMA position is that lowered resistance has no relation to diet.
Wow.
But the evidence that diet has such a relation has been well established for years. The government publications have stressed the fact many times. There's an attached reprint of that quote where the AMA actually says a statement that says food has no relation to immune health. It's unbelievable. And this was back in the 40s. Another vicious phase of the AMA's skullduggery, I love finagling skullduggery, is in their alliance with the counterfeit and refined food industry as outlined in the accompanying booklet written in 1940, A Criminal Conspiracy in Any Language. Your Health, What It Is Worth to the Racketeer, that's the name of it. Your Health, What It's Worth to the Racketeer. No one has tried to refute any of the statements in this booklet. They cannot be refuted. So he's saying already, 80 years ago, he's saying, 65, 70 years ago almost, he's saying the AMA's crooked as a dog's hind leg. He's also saying that they've got the market cornered on information. He's also now throwing the ultra-processed food industry, refined food industry, under the bus in 1962. Most people didn't even know that there was refined food in 1962. And here's Royal Lee writing a letter to the president of the country in 1960. Very few people have seen this. Such a racket must have a hatchet department to intimidate its victims. Your own FDA and Department of Justice is that hatchet department. Notice the capital letters? He's shouting, right? Go back. I'm sorry, next. There we go. It happens that I've been established for 32 years selling nutritional specialties to the doctor. My customers, remember, 32 years, so 1929, right? Catalan came out 1929. My customers are any duly licensed practitioner, whether medical, osteopath, chiropractor, naturopaths. I enclose the transcript of court proceedings where my company was fined $7,000, back then that was a ton of money, for the frightful offense of refusing to suppress facts that had not been accepted by the medical monopoly. Here is evidence of the criminal nature of the AMA and its reaching right into the FDA and the Department of Justice to perform criminal acts. The FDA actually admitted they had no case if the facts were to be the criterion, but now that literature must conform to the consensus of medical opinion, it was technically false. Under this ruling, I cannot help the doctor in his effort to detect deficiency disease. I must suppress proven facts where the information often may mean life or death to the doctor's patient. My character is smeared, my reputation harmed by the dishonest acts of government officials. This is Royal Lee. I'll go into a whole class. One of these days, I'm going to do a whole class just on what he went through to get you those supplements. You're going to be shocked. Mr. President, do you endorse this program? That is my question. If you don't, please appoint a reliable man to supervise the grand jury investigation now being conducted into corruption in the FDA. It will be a perfectly managed whitewash unless you take action. Very truly yours, Royal Lee, President, Vitamin Products Company. That was 1962. You are a handful of people who've ever seen that letter. Now, the question is, not long after writing this, JFK took a bullet, or a couple of bullets. Dr. Royal Lee and Standard Process had to sign a consent decree with the Fear and Death Administration, and Dr. Royal Lee suffered a stroke. not long after writing that letter. Just a year after writing that letter is when Dr. Lee had a stroke. So, what can we garner from this? Well, here's some questions right here. We're almost done. This is it. Did JFK ever even see this letter? Has RFK ever seen it? What about Dr. Lee and standard process? Well, they underwent a complete investigation, and the FDA has been trying to shut them down ever since. The FDA, you could feasibly say that the FDA is on their property weekly or monthly trying to shut them down because of what they're doing, which tells me something, right? Dr. Lee was convicted. Rather than going to jail and having standard process put out of business, he signed a consent decree preventing them from saying anything about their products. If you look through a standard process catalog or you look on their website, notice what it says about some of the products. They're hamstrung. They can't even tell you half the stuff that they do. So, this may help with blood sugar regulation. This may help with immunity. This may help with, they have to, like their legal team is like a circus full of Philadelphia lawyers just figuring out the right way to write this stuff so they don't get hauled into court by the government, right? It's unbelievable. About their products, the heart sound recorder, that's another thing. It's like the early version of the EKG. Royal Lee developed this thing, the EKG. Basically, Royal Lee developed it. They call it the heart sound recorder. But from all the stress, Dr. Lee suffered a stroke at the end of '63. It's truly a wonder that standard process even survived. And you have access to these products, so use them. I don't know how many times. People are like, I'm taking 15 tablets. Okay, then fine, don't take them. I don't care, don't take them. You have access to these products, use them. If you want to use them, use them. If you don't, don't. Let's hope and pray that RFK may fulfill what Dr. Lee wrote about to JFK. And then lastly, even the chiropractors didn't help. After this, from 1964, here's like, it's when the Beatles landed. You know what I mean? This was 1964. Here's what's going on in the heartland. Here's the letter from the ACA telling standard process, you can't even have an exhibit at our national convention since the Fear and Death Administration doesn't like you. What the chiropractors do? Check this out. Your application for exhibit space at the Denver Convention has been considered by our Committee on Advertising and Exhibits. After a bunch of deliberation, the committee has concluded that it wouldn't be in the best interest of the organization to provide space in accordance with your request. Accordingly, your application is declined. Here's your $144.50 back. The committee's decision was based primarily on the continuing conflict which has existed between your company and associated companies with the FDA during the past several years. The conflict involves alleged violations of federal law with regard to which you have chosen a course of action which we believe might be harmful to persons using your products. The chiropractors said, oh man, you're in deep doo-doo with the government, you're untouchable. That's the American Chiropractic Association. They're sickening. They're sickening. Since an exhibit of your products at an official meeting of our organization would be construed by many as an endorsement, it follows that we cannot provide exhibit space under existing circumstances. Although the committee's decision is final, we'll be pleased to review and reconsider your position at any time in the future should there be a change in circumstances. H.W. Pruitt, D.C. Probably went on to teach at a chiropractic school, probably. That's it. The chiropractors didn't believe what they taught in the chiropractic schools, sided with the government. They were complete cowards, and were nothing like those people jailed not long before them for practicing chiropractic. So I say all that to say that's what happened in the past. Man, we're making America healthy again. And how are we going to do it? Well, we're going to link up with people who want to get better. That's it. I want you to see this. This is like a 2-minute video or something, and then we're done. Then I'll answer a couple questions. Roll it.
Hi, I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on my first day at work here at HHS. I want to take this moment to say a few words both to my supporters in the Make America Healthy Again movement, but also to all of the American public. I could read you a list of statistics proving that Americans suffer far higher levels of chronic disease, obesity, addiction, cancer, infertility, and depression than ever before in history, and more than any other country in the world. You already know that. It's pretty obvious that something has gone terribly wrong with our health. I'm also not going to tell you the reasons for this decline. Why? Because neither I nor anyone else can be certain. But what I will tell you is that we are going to find out, and we're going to do something about it. My commitment to you is that we're going to make chronic disease our top priority. In our first 100 days, we're going to examine every possible contributing factor to the epidemic of chronic disease. We will leave no stone unturned. We're going to listen to the experts and to the dissidents. We're going to listen to insiders and to the whistleblowers. We're going to listen to the doctors and we're going to listen to the moms. We will examine our food, our medicine, our water, our lifestyles, and our environment, everything that goes into Americans' bodies. I promise you that I will enter this inquiry with an open mind and a willingness to be wrong. And I ask that you join me in that. That's how we're going to build unity in this age of political division. We have to find something we care about more than being right, more than political advantage, and more than financial profit. The health of our children is a higher calling for all of us. And here's another promise. We're going to usher in a new era of transparency in all of our health agencies. There's going to be no more hidden conflicts of interest, no more secrecy, no more profiteering from the substances that we're supposed to be regulating. We're going to earn the public's trust with honest, unbiased science. After we get clear on the causes of chronic disease, we're going to take action to reverse it. I know that many of you have lost hope. I know that many of you take these chronic conditions as a normal part of life. Oh, it doesn't have to be that way. I know that because it wasn't that way when I was a kid, and it doesn't have to be that way tomorrow. All it takes is to unify our will, to get serious about solving this problem. President Trump has made it one of his top priorities, and I promise to do everything in my power to carry it through. And all I need is your help.
Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
But that's shocking how we all know that all the stuff is evident, but there are many people who just don't care. It's crazy. Huh?
Pray for his safety.
Pray for his safety. Yep, absolutely. Any questions? We're all done. That's all I have to say. Anything else? Questions?
It's like the
Go ahead.
the nation has been under just mind control to where I was just impressed with the when we were talking about the doctors that band together and for the transgender kids. It's like, you know, we've all agreed to say that the king is not naked.
Right.
And we just continue in this lie that is so apparent that the king has no clothes on, but because one person said he did, and another said he did, and another said he did, and you probably heard of that test where they had a group of people, and one person was excluded from the control, and they elected, say, picked a color, green. You know, they showed the group green, and all of the others, but that one person agreed that it was red. And finally, after multiple times, they generally succumbed to the peer pressure and agreed, oh,
Yeah.
you're right, it's red.
Yep. That's what's happening. Yeah, I forget the name of the experiment.
Yeah. And so
But yeah.
we say the king has no clothes on.
The king is buck naked. Yes. Yeah. And it's obvious, and it's been this way for a long time. I mean, I remember when what was that, 97, I guess, my grandpa died, and, that was when I thought, wow, we've got all these fancy hospitals, and routine procedure turns into a funeral? Like, this doesn't make sense. And then happened again later on. You just hear this all the time. It's like, I worked in a hospital for 3 years. I never saw anybody get anything but more drugs, right? Took me forever, and I still didn't know. I still couldn't see through it. All the nurses I worked with were completely hooked on meds and completely ate crap food. A whole entire floor. I was the only dude. I was the only one in my 20s. So it was nuts. But yeah, I mean, even back then I couldn't see it because it's like this is what everybody does. This is just the way it is, But no, not at all. It doesn't have to be that way. Like he said, it doesn't have to be that way. That's normal. Doesn't mean that it's the way it should be, but that's just, well, it's common. It's common, but it doesn't have to be normal.
So that gag, so that gag clause is still enforced.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yep. You can't really tell people what the stuff will really do. At least their company can't. We can.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I think.
Yeah. So just know that when people, I guess it's like when you get, after you've done this for a certain amount of time and when you're kind of jaded by people's stupid excuses and their objections to things, you just kind of get to that point where you're like, okay, great, take it, don't take it, just go, just, So just like last week, somebody was talking about, I had to do these supplements and I counted them and, why am I taking so many? I go, well, what organ do you not want? I don't know. I don't know what you spend your money on. I don't know what you value. I value being healthy for a long time because I can't live in a house, drive a nice car, or go anyplace if I'm dead. So my number one expense is good food and supplements. Your number one expense might be a 50-year, 7% mortgage paid to JP Morgan Chase until the day you die because you think you have to have a house or you have to have this or you have to have a boat or you have to have an extra ATV or you got to go on a trip somewhere or whatever. It's just everybody values things differently. So it's just after a while, you kind of get to that point where you're like, okay, take the stuff, don't take the stuff. It's available, it's here, I'm not going anywhere. There are people that would kill. There are people that would chop off limbs to know what you guys know. There are people that would crawl over dead bodies to get to some of those supplements because they know. People who know but don't have access to it are completely outnumbered by those who have access to it but don't want to know. It's crazy. Question.
Another question.
Oh, Jane.
So, all of the dark blue countries, what would be the explanation of why they are so healthy? Do you think they are intentionally banning all this great new things that we can offer, or intentionally infiltrating?
So the countries that have lower autism rates?
Yeah, was it just autism or just healthy versus
No, that was just autism.
autism?
So it's food, air, water, chemicals, drugs, period. So America is overwhelmed by all of those. If you go to other countries, their food's not poison. They don't have checkerboards in the skies. They don't have 90 different vaccines in their kids' vaccine schedule by the time they're 12. It's only in America. Only in North America, I should say.
Well, in Europe.
And Europe, a few countries in Europe, yeah. But you could take 100 kids and vaccinate all of them 90 times, and only a certain percentage of them is going to get cross-eyed, banging their head on a wall, wearing diapers, because it's the gamut of everything. It's the food, it's the fluoride in the water, it's the medications, it's the crap they're putting on and in their body, it's the vaccines. It's not always the vaccines. What I'm saying is, what he was saying, he said it at the very end, we're going to look into the food, the air, we're going to look into the water, fluoride, we're going to look into the environment, all the stuff that outside of you, that gets into you. So the plastics, the EMFs, all the stuff, right? So it's all that. And all of it is rampant here, whereas in other countries, not so much. Make sense? Any questions, thoughts?
I have one question.
Oh, geez. Heidi's got a question. You got to watch out for her question.
Did you get any likes or comments on your last Angry Pharmacist?
I don't know. I think the whole thing got taken down so fast. I think somebody smashed it. And no, I don't think I got any comments. But I just hopped on, firebombed, napalmed, got off. So I don't even know what happened. But I went back to look for that conversation later, and it was gone. But it was hundreds of people that were just throwing him in front of the bus. But basically it was all like, we make good money. I'm not going to throw this away, blah, 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 yada, yada. What does the Bible have to do with anything? It's a Bronze Age fairy tale. Why are you even reading the Bible? I thought you were a rational person. He's a 45-year pharmacist. So no, I didn't see.
Have you tried connecting with that pharmacist?
No.
One-on-one?
No. No, I don't use Facebook anymore. So I came out of retirement just to drop that firebomb because I wanted to support him. He was getting roasted. He was getting eaten alive by his own crew. And I wanted to say, you know what, Bob, you're right.
He may be on something else and just connecting one-on-one.
Yeah. I just don't want to establish connections on Facebook any longer. No, not interested.
Be another way, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I know his name. I mean, I could probably find him. He's a 45-year pharmacist. He's got to be in his 80s, 60s or 80s, you know.
Yeah, he would love to hear from you, I am sure.
Oh, I'd love to. Hey, Bob Gambler, I'm a chiropractor. You're right. It's total witchcraft. Okay, but yeah, that was a good question. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. We'll see you March 24th. Different time, same place, to be determined on the title. But thank you. We'll see you soon. Share this. Tell people. Take care.